Let me tell you something. When I woke up this morning, I did not dream of hearing any bad news. Not today, not ever. But here we are. We are talking about one of the most recognizable names in hip-hop, a founding member of Migos, Cardi B's husband, a man who has been to the top of this industry and back. And right now, he's sitting somewhere with a bullet wound in his backside, and the internet is absolutely losing its mind. And before you say anything, yes, I said backside. We'll get to that. But here's the part that really got me. This didn't happen in a dark alley. This didn't happen after a concert or in some back street at 3 in the morning. This happened at the Hard Rock Casino in Florida, one of the most public, most surveilled, most camera-filled venues you can walk into. And somehow, in the middle of all of that, a man pulled out a gun and shot Offset in front of everybody. So today, we are breaking down everything. The beef, the money, the gambling, the DMs, the arrest, and the much bigger conversation that nobody in this industry seems to want to have. Because this story is not just about one shooting. This story is about a pattern. And that pattern has already cost this culture one life. We cannot afford to lose another. Let's get into it. All right, so here's what we know. It all goes down at the Hard Rock Casino in Florida. Now, footage started circulating online almost immediately. And when I say immediately, I mean within minutes. This thing was everywhere. Clips, reactions, eyewitness accounts. The internet was on fire before most people had even figured out what they were looking at. In the footage that went around, you can see a chaotic scene outside the casino. There's someone on the ground being detained by police, and word spread fast that the person being apprehended was Lil TJ, not Offset. Offset was not visibly in that clip. But the confirmation came through quickly from multiple sources that TJ was involved, that he was the one being taken into custody, and that Offset had been hit. Now, here's the detail that sent shockwaves through the whole timeline. According to eyewitness Seti Nash, who confirmed he was there and saw the whole thing go down, Offset and Lil TJ had been fighting, a physical altercation, and by most accounts, Offset was winning. Offset was handling him. And then, Offset turned around, walked away, thought it was done, thought it was over. It was not over. Because the moment Offset turned his back, Lil TJ pulled out a weapon and shot him from behind while he was walking away. Let that sink in for a second. This was not a shootout. This was not two people squaring up and it getting out of hand. If what the witnesses are saying is true, this was a man who was losing a fight, watched his opponent walk away in victory, and then shot him in the back, or rather, in the back end. And that distinction matters. Legally, strategically, morally, it matters enormously, because the moment Offset turned and walked away, any argument about self-defense walked away with him. Lil TJ was arrested on the scene. Offset was injured, but thankfully the reports confirmed he was not in a life-threatening condition. He was seen leaving the Hard Rock, walking, which, under the circumstances, is about the best news you could hope for. But the story doesn't start there, not even close. To understand what happened at that casino, you have to go back. You have to understand who Lil TJ is, what his relationship with Offset was, and why $10,000 turned into a gunshot. Lil TJ is a rapper who, by his own account, has had a rough road. He's talked publicly about being shot 8 times and surviving. 8 times. So this is not someone who scares easily. This is not someone who takes disrespect lightly. And this is not someone who forgets when he feels he's been done wrong. Now, somewhere along the line, Lil TJ lent Offset $10,000, 10 bands, at a casino, and Offset, allegedly, never paid it back. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. $10,000 to someone with Offset's level of money and success? Why is that even a conversation? Why is that even a point of conflict? And you'd be right to ask that, because on the surface, $10,000 should be a rounding error to someone at Offset's level. It should be a non-issue. Send it back, dead the situation, move on with your life. But that's not what happened. Instead, according to TJ, Offset went ghost, ignored the requests, and then, and this is the part that escalated everything, when TJ pushed for the money back, Offset allegedly slid into his DMs with a message that has since gone viral. Get it back in blood. 4 words. 4 words that changed the entire temperature of this situation. Because when you tell someone, especially someone who has been shot 8 times and is still standing, get it back in blood, you are no longer having a financial disagreement. You are making a threat. You are drawing a line. And apparently, Lil TJ decided to take him up on it. The DMs that circulated online tell their own story. Back and forth messages, Offset dismissing him, calling him little clown boy, telling him to come to New York and say it to his face. TJ responding calmly, saying he just wants his 10 back. Offset replying, say that, which in street terms means then come say it face to face, come prove it. And TJ posted it all publicly. He posted it to the world. He wasn't hiding the beef. He wanted everyone to know that Offset had borrowed money from him, refused to pay it back, and was now in his DMs talking reckless. He even put out a public warning, do not loan Offset any money, he's popped. And this wasn't just talk. Multiple people started coming out of the woodwork sharing their own stories about Offset in the casino, borrowing money from strangers, asking random people for Cash App payments just to keep gambling, losing it all, going back, losing again. It painted a picture of someone who was not just having a bad night, but was in the grip of something much deeper and much darker. And here is where this story stops being about clout and starts being about something real. Because the more you dig into this, the more you realize that the shooting at the Hard Rock Casino is not the headline. The headline is what led Offset, with the wealth, talent, and profile he has, to be borrowing cash from people at a casino in the first place. Multiple sources have described the same scene. Offset at the tables, down bad, losing hand after hand, and instead of walking away, because that's what the addiction tells you, it tells you the next one will be different, the next hand is the one that turns it all around, he kept going, and when the money ran out, he started asking people around him, strangers, people he'd never met, for Cash App transfers just to keep playing. Think about that. This is a man who has sold out arenas, who has gone platinum, who has lived a life that most people dream about, and he's standing in a casino asking a random woman for $2,000 just to stay at the table. One person who was there described watching Offset borrow roughly $13,000 in loans from different people throughout the night, losing it all, going back for more. It is the definition of a gambling addiction in full spiral mode. And here's the part that broke my heart a little bit, because I'm not here to just clown the man, I'm here to talk real. One commenter on social media said something that stuck with me. They said that Offset has probably been dealing with PTSD since the murder of Takeoff. And when you think about it, when you really sit with it, it makes a terrible kind of sense. Takeoff was killed outside a bowling alley in Houston, and if you go back and look at the reports from that night, there had been gambling earlier in the evening, dice games, and things escalated, and Takeoff, who by most accounts was just there, just present, not involved in whatever conflict was brewing, lost his life. Offset lost his cousin, his brother, his partner, someone he grew up with, created with, built an empire with. And now, the same environment, the late nights, gambling, the cash changing hands, the tension that builds in those spaces keeps pulling Offset back in, and every time it does, it costs him something. His money, his reputation, now his safety. I'm not making excuses. I'm not saying what happened at that casino was anyone's fault but the person who pulled the trigger. But I am saying that behind every piece of this story, there's a man who is clearly struggling, and instead of people around him saying enough, instead of people helping him find a way out, the circle just kept letting him back in, and now, here we are. Now, back to Lil TJ. Once the footage hit, the confirmations started rolling in fast. Academic, who has been reliable on these kinds of breaking stories, confirmed that TJ was in custody. He spoke to his team, who confirmed he was not shot himself, but that he was currently being held in connection with the incident. And interestingly, the way his team framed it, they said he stood on business, which tells you everything you need to know about how that side of the situation is being spun. Quavo, Offset's remaining Migos brother, sent out prayers, and in the context of everything this man has been through, watching his group splinter, watching Takeoff get buried, and now watching Offset get shot, that hit different. Nobody said anything dramatic. Nobody needed to. Sometimes silence speaks louder than any statement ever could. Then there's 6ix9ine, who apparently was in the area and pulled up to the Hard Rock Casino just to film himself cloud chasing around the scene, playing rap music, laughing at the chaos. Look, I don't even need to say much about that. You already know how you feel about it. And online, the takes were flying. Some people said they understood TJ's frustration, but couldn't see shooting someone over 10 grand. Others pointed out that to TJ, it probably was never just about the money. It was about being told to get it back in blood and being dismissed by someone who thought he was untouchable. Some said Offset should have paid the money back and none of this would have happened. Others said both men need to stay out of casinos entirely. One person wrote something I can't stop thinking about. They said, "You think that rap money lasts forever? At some point, you've got to maintain it somewhere." He doesn't want to trap anymore, so he gambles. And that's the sad cycle, isn't it? You make it out, you get the money, you get the fame, and then the streets find another way back in, through the back door, through the casino, through a debt that should have been 30 seconds to pay back, but turns into a war instead. Let me be straight with you. This story should not have happened. None of it. Not the debt, not the DMs, not the fight, definitely not the shooting. $10,000 between two people with careers in music should never become a headline. It should never become a shooting. But it did. And the reason it did is because there are layers to this that go beyond money. Pride, ego, addiction, grief, unresolved trauma, and a culture that far too often confuses standing on business with standing in a police lineup. Lil TJ is in custody, and based on what witnesses are describing, Offset walking away when he was shot, whatever legal argument his team tries to build, self-defense is going to be a very, very hard sell. You cannot shoot a man in the back and call it defense. The cameras at the Hard Rock Casino caught all of it. All of it. And Offset needs real support. Not yes men, not enablers, not people who loan him money at a casino at 2 a.m. Real support, real conversations, real help with whatever is driving him back to those tables night after night, loss after loss. Because this could have been so much worse. He walked out, and I'm grateful for that. But next time, we might not be so lucky. So look, here's where we land. Offset got shot at the Hard Rock Casino in Florida. Lil TJ is in custody. The beef was rooted in a $10,000 gambling debt, a set of threatening DMs, and years of simmering tension that finally boiled over in the worst possible way. Offset is going to recover physically. Whether he recovers from the addiction, from the grief, from the spiral, that's the real question. And I genuinely hope the answer is yes. As for Lil TJ, standing on business is one thing, but standing in a prison cell is another. And if those cameras show what witnesses say they show, that's exactly where this is headed.